Frank Maixner is a microbiologist. He works at the Eurac Research Institute for Mummy Studies in South Tyrol, where he uses state-of-the-art DNA analysis technologies to research viruses and bacteria. Over the past decade, he has also been investigating ancient remains, such as those of Ötzi the Iceman. In 2019, an exciting project was initiated in collaboration with the Natural History Museum in Vienna, the investigation of archaeological finds from a salt mine in Hallstatt, Austria. Overseeing the excavation and the museological involvement are Hans Reschreiter, head of excavation and research in the salt mine, and Kerstin Kowarik, prehistoric archaeologist at the museum.
Yes, Hallstatt is really a special place. We have more than 7,000 years of salt production, starting in the early Neolithic and continuing up to now. We know around 100 prehistoric sites inside the mine, and the special thing for these sites is that everything the miners left behind thousands of years ago is perfectly preserved. We find the tools of the miners, the organic material, we find the clothing, and due to this huge amount of organic finds, we can reconstruct the living and working conditions of prehistoric societies. We get insights in prehistoric societies in a detail like in no other place. And in this prehistoric waste, we also find the excrements of the miners.
The collaboration saw archaeological methods combined with microbiological analyses for the first time. The paleofeces were analysed microscopically, and samples from them were sequenced in the laboratory, where several surprising discoveries were made.
We were able to investigate human feces from several prehistoric and historical periods because they were preserved inside the Hallstatt salt mountain. They were left behind by the prehistoric and historic miners. This is a very rare and special situation which gives us deep and detailed insights in culinary practices and human health status.
Our in-depth microscopic, metagenomic and proteomic analysis allowed us not only to reconstruct the diet of this former population, but also provided precious insights into the gut microbiome. And in one particular sample, we were very surprised because we found high abundance of two fungi which are involved in food fermentation processes. So we saw here the high abundance of Penicillium roqueforti, which is used for producing blue cheese, and also Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is used for brewing beer. And we see here that already in Iron Age time there was the consumption of blue cheese and beer.
In the archaeological record, we have a certain amount of material, pictorial and literal references to fermentation. But it wasn't until now through molecular analysis that we could really directly prove the consumption of fermented goods and that we could date the production of special cheeses, of special tastes to nearly 3,000 years ago in Europe, so to the European Iron Age. And these results, what do they mean for us? This means that prehistoric culinary practices were sophisticated and that they relied on complex food processing techniques like fermentation. And we also see indications that this complex diet was widespread, so that all levels of society would participate in this. And that also people probably traded special foodstuffs on a regular basis.
The 4 samples examined span a time period ranging from the Bronze and Iron Age to the Baroque period. It was this most recent sample that revealed a remarkable conclusion.
In addition, we compared now these ancient gut microbiomes to the one of the Icemen and other communities, modern communities. And this showed us that the ancient miners carried a gut microbiome which is more like the one we nowadays see in non-Westernized communities. And they have a particular diet different to ours, more fruits, cereals and unprocessed foods. And this showed us most likely our microbiome changed quite recently in the last 200 to 300 years due to the industrialization processes. Of course, this was now a pilot study having only 4 samples analyzed. But in the future we are already planning to extend this now to other samples, and there's much more to discover.